I call to order the informal meeting of the General Assembly to hear a briefing by the United Nations Secretary General on the situation in Haiti. As you are aware, a tragedy of immense proportions has befallen the people of Haiti. On behalf of the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Dr. Ali Treki, and all the member states, I would like to express my heartfelt condolence to the government and people of Haiti and to the families of the United Nations staff and peacekeepers from MINUSTAH. All our brave colleagues who were killed in this disaster. The thought, sympathy, and support of the entire international community are with them at this difficult moment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Mr. Secretary General, thank you for your statement and your work. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be brief. We have all been watching the same news reports. We have all seen the same pictures. A substantial number of United Nations employees, some of the finest people I have ever worked with, died yesterday in Haiti, along with a large but as yet undetermined number of Haitians. Last night, the streets of Port-au-Prince were filled with the dead and the wounded. And there are still a lot of people under the rubble. Many of them are alive. And we won't know for a few days how many there are. I believe the United Nations has done a very good job. Mr. Secretary, I commend you and all the people for the work, the commitment you made, the $10 million, the food that has been pre-positioned from in El Salvador that will be taken in, the work of the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and others. I thank the United States, the President, Secretary of State, the Aid Director, the Department of Defense. I thank China, Russia, the neighbors in Latin America and the Caribbean, all the other countries that have offered help. All this is important. I would like to say just three things briefly. Number one, a lot of people out here in the United States and around the world want to help. And the temptation is to send things that you imagine will be needed. We do not have the logistical and organizational capacity right now to handle a lot of things, even if we need those things. Some of the streets are broken, the power lines are down, there are problems. So if anybody within the sound of my voice wants to do something individually or through a group, remember what the Secretary General said. Right now, for the next week or 10 days, we need water, food, shelter, and first aid supplies. That's what we need. We've got to save as many lives as possible and keep the people who are wounded as healthy as possible and give water to people where there's no more clean water and feed them. That's what we need. So the most important thing individuals can do who care is to send cash, even if it's $1 or $2. Number two, we set up a website for the UN for people, if you want to give money to the Red Cross, Red Crescent, or UNICEF, or any of the other groups, you can. If you want to send it to this website, I will give the cash to the people immediately for water, food, shelter, first aid supplies. That's what we need until we get through here and find out every living person and every person who didn't survive. And that website is www.clintonfoundation.org/ Haiti earthquake. All the money will be immediately dispersed to the people on the ground for food, water, first aid supplies, and shelter. The second thing I'd like to say is we have had already a great response from the donors in implementing the long-term development plan for Haiti, which is what the Secretary General asked me to do. But there is a dramatic difference between the commitments that have been made and the percentage of those commitments that have been fulfilled to date. In addition to the flash appeal, if the donors could move to fulfill their commitments, it would help us. Haiti's in trouble now. It wasn't just the UN. We haven't accounted for every member of the Haitian Parliament. The presidential palace was damaged. It was only today that the Prime Minister could get on CNN and talk about what needs to be done. We need those commitments. And finally, this doesn't change the obligation that we have to help a newly revived, committed group of Haitians in and out of political office to implement their plans for a sustainable future. So my dedication to them has redoubled, and I hope yours will too. But I have been working in heartbreaking circumstances like this for 3 decades now. What we need now is food, water, supplies for first aid, and shelter. We have got to find out who's alive. We have to care for the people who are dead and to try to preserve them so their loved ones can identify them. And that has to be done by people on the ground. I have great confidence in Mr. Mullet. I thank the Secretary for sending him back, Secretary General for sending him back to Haiti. We have 1,000 details to work out, but we'll do that. I ask for your support, individually, for the next 2 weeks in the way that I mentioned, and then over the long run. We owe it to our colleagues who perished in that earthquake yesterday. No one can ever doubt again what the relevance of the United Nations is to the 21st century, or what the devotion of its employees is to the common cause of humanity. We owe it to them to respond in the right way. Thank you very much.